Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Matthew Bowles. I'm the Director of Professional Services at Pink Elephant. And I'm joined today with my colleague, Brian Curry, one of our Senior Account Managers.
Good day, IT professionals of the world. Thank you for joining us and connecting on IT Service Management's Favorite Duos third webinar. And that's what will be a series of many more to come, I have no doubt. Good day to you, Matthew.
How you doing, Brian?
I am just doing great, and I love the fact that we're still being marketed as ITSM's favorite duo. So I wanted to come up with some new monikers for us. I think Senior Account Manager and Director of Professional Services just don't live up to ITSM's favorite duo. So I'm going to throw out a couple here, and then if anybody wants to throw some suggestions in the chat, be nice. But I'm going to throw these out as Smart Guy and Sales Dude. And I'll let people figure out who's who.
I'm not that active in sales, but I also don't feel tremendously smart either, Brian. I think we're going to have to do better than that.
Perhaps by the end of this you will be. So let's see. We are going to be, oh no, I just spilled some coffee. I was just going to say what we're talking about, but what a bad incident I just had here at my desk. Matt, can you tell us what we're talking about?
So, Brian, before I jump on to the next slide, what exciting thing has happened since we last had one of these webinars?
That's a great question. And that's why I'm Sales Dude and not Smart Guy.
ITIL 4 was launched.
Oh, yes.
ITIL 4.
Has it been that long since we last did a webinar?
It has. It was last time we got together for one of these was January, and in February of this year, of course, ITIL 4 was launched. So that's an exciting time for IT professionals everywhere in the world.
Yes.
As they get keen to see and understand what's happening with ITIL 4. But that's not what this webinar is about. We're not going to be talking too much about ITIL 4, but I'm going to provide you a little bit of perspective. And some of the visuals that I'll use in today's presentation will be more around ITIL 4. But essentially what we want to do today is cover an introduction to incident management. So if you've been following the series, we've talked about problem, we've talked about change, now we're coming into incident management, and a little bit about just incident ITIL version 3, ITIL version 4. You can see some of the nuanced differences in terms of how they're described from the perspective of the purpose. Talk about incident definition, some key considerations that you want to be looking at. Diagnosis resolution, of course, is critical from an incident management perspective. And then we'll also talk about some key integrations. And then ideally, you're here to learn about how to improve your incident management process, or maybe to start a new implementation. So we'll talk about that, and Brian's going to take us through a toolkit that Pink Elephant has called PinkATLAS. So that's essentially what we're going to cover from an agenda perspective. Anything you wanted to add, Brian?
No, I'm just waiting for you to blow people's minds here and tell them that it's going to be called incident management practice instead of process, but I'm sure you're going to get to that.
No, I don't want to cover that at all. That's just
okay.
going to confuse people. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
So here's the introduction. So in terms of ITIL version 3, ITIL version 4, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, that's the purpose of incident management as defined by ITIL version 3. So the purpose of incident management: restore normal service as quickly as possible, minimize the adverse impact on business operations, thus ensuring agreed levels of service quality are maintained. And that's defined as a part of the publication Service Operations, and it's one of 26 processes that are defined in ITIL version 3. You can already see that on the right-hand side of the screen, this is the purpose of incident management from an ITIL 4 perspective, and it's a little bit simplified, but the key messaging is the same. So the purpose of incident management is to minimize the negative impact of incidents by restoring normal service operation as quickly as possible. So less words, but the same sort of context, same application in terms of what we're trying to do. Both cases, we're trying to restore service as quickly as possible. We want to get back to that normal operational service that's been defined for our customers, our users. And incident management from an ITIL 4 perspective is defined as one of the service management practices, and it's one of 34 practices that are defined in ITIL 4. So from an ITIL version 3 to an ITIL 4 perspective, the context is now it's more of a practice rather than a process. But I don't want to get too much into that. Maybe in another series we'll go into some of the nuanced differences. But really what you need to know at this stage of ITIL 4 is that ITIL 4, the initial book that's been published, ITIL 4 Foundation, provides a very high-level view of all 34 of these practices, as well as some very key concepts around the service value chain and the service value system. And it's providing a framework of direction in terms of where ITIL is moving towards. So it's something absolutely that you should be aware of in your organization. But in terms of the detail, so if you're actually going to be implementing or improving one of your ITSM processes, then version 3 is still where you're going to look for the detail. And just as an example, if you look at incident management in the ITIL 4 Foundation book, it covers about 2.5, 3 pages. The incident management process defined within service operations in ITIL version 3 is much more detailed, has probably 20 plus pages. So there's a lot more detail in terms of specific activities, roles, policies that you might put in place, measures that you might have. So that detail is not currently defined within ITIL 4. So our recommendation to organizations is to understand what's happening from an ITIL 4 perspective. But if you're doing implementation or improvement, ITIL version 3 is still very relevant, is still very much of importance in terms of operating and managing your service management environment. So what is an incident? So an incident from a definition perspective remains pretty much the same between version 4 and version 3. An incident is an unplanned interruption to a service or a reduction in quality to a service. So again, in either perspective, so there's an interruption to what you would see as normal service, or a reduction in quality, performance is lagging, we should be opening an incident. One of the things that's interesting in ITIL 4 is that quite often we look at just the operational environment as where we would track and record incidents. But from a version 4 perspective, it's broadened to include development, test, different environments that are not necessarily customer or our traditional customer, traditional user perspective. We could actually start logging and documenting incidents across any of our environments that we're supporting across our organization. Some key concepts here in terms of we want to make sure that all incidents are logged, that we're documenting key characteristics of the incident through categorization. We want to make sure that we're capturing clearly the priority of that incident, so leveraging impact and urgency of the incident so that we get a clear sense of the priority, so we know how to respond, how quickly we need to respond based on service level targets or service level agreements that we've put in place. And we want to ensure that the targets that we have in place are achievable based on how we work with other support groups within our IT organization. And keeping in mind that some of those support groups may be external third parties. So we want to ensure that all of this information is captured as a part of defining our incident management process. Some things that we want to keep in mind in terms of putting incident management in place is ensuring that incident management practice is defined appropriately based on different types of incidents. So that means that we might want to actually have a different set of process activities defined for a major incident, so something that's extremely critical to the organization. We might have a different set of activities from the perspective of information security. So a different set of roles, responsibilities that are going to be responding to those types of incidents. And again, we want to be able to model that and enable those different workflows potentially within the technology that we're utilizing to support the overall incident management practice in our environment. We need to have some sort of a tool in place to be able to log, prioritize, categorize, assign the incidents within the environment, and ensure that we can track and use that information to effectively communicate to our customers in terms of what the impact of incidents are to the organization and what the current status is to the user that initially reported this particular incident. We also want to ensure that there's linkages and integration between our incident management practice and other key processes, or practices. So configuration management, we want to be able to tie the incident to a specific CI if that's known. We want to be able to relate the incident to a change record or to a problem record, link it to a knowledge record so that it's going to help to expedite resolution and response time for our support teams. We want to make sure that as we manage the life cycle of each individual incident, that we're capturing information that's going to help us to provide good feedback, good information to the individual or to our customer groups on the status of the incident, when we think that it's going to be resolved, how close we are to service level targets in terms of the establishment of a resolution for that incident. And of course, the incident has to be capturing sufficient details to ensure that we can diagnose, investigate, and uncover an appropriate resolution for that incident. So whether we're leveraging scripts, so in terms of creating specific incident models for a specific application. For example, if you're supporting an ERP, if you're logging an incident against that ERP, you could select that type of incident model, and as soon as you open that up within the tool, it comes up with a very specific set of questions that should be answered or captured by the user, and that's going to help to speed up or identify a potential solution much quicker. So looking at how we can use the tools, how we can automate activities within the incident management process is a very key activity as we plan out, design, and implement this particular process.
So Matt, I noticed in a previous slide there you had prioritization up there, and I'm not sure we talked too much about that, but I was just sitting here thinking about how probably everybody's household has their own prioritization models in it. I know with mine, say my son sees one of the cats getting sick on the rug, that's a priority level 1, but if he happens to step in it, that's a priority level 3. So I'm sure everybody has their own prioritization models that they can relate to. And then, of course, we all deal with escalation models, too. When Dad says no, we escalate that to Mom.
Yeah, priority is a tricky thing because what you have to do is get consensus across the organization on what the different levels of impact and urgency are. And then you have to make sure that that model is consistently applied by the people that are logging the incidents. Because as you say, as something that might be a high priority for me, may in the scheme of things be a much lower priority in the overall picture of what we're currently supporting. So yeah, taking some good consideration in the development and implementation of that prioritization model is absolutely key. So of course, a key part of incident management process is the incident diagnosis and resolution, and there's a lot of roles involved in supporting that. So we have the service desk who typically is still seen as that sort of first point of contact. They're either receiving events coming into the ticketing system so that they can review and take action on those events. There might be a self-service portal that's in play where your users are able to log and maybe self-support their incidents if you've got a robust knowledge base attached to that. There's obviously the different support teams. There's external suppliers that we might need to call out to, and we might actually pull together a group of people. And this is most commonly done in the support of a major incident, where we pull in team members from multiple different groups, and we form a major incident response team. And their goal now is to work collaboratively to identify a diagnosis and a resolution for that particular major incident. And then, of course, if it hits that threshold where it's now impacting your service continuity plan, you may have a separate team that's involved from a disaster recovery perspective. So there's lots of different teams that are defined as a part of incident diagnosis and resolution, and depending on the level of robustness of your process and what you've put in place for incident management, you may see variances in terms of how these teams work together. And one of the concepts introduced from an ITIL 4 perspective is this idea of swarming, which is not necessarily a new concept, but new from a terminology perspective in ITIL, where we're pulling together different stakeholders similar to this temporary cross-functional team. But even in the normal resolution of an incident that's maybe not major, maybe it makes sense to swarm with a developer, a network engineer, to capture some information and identify an appropriate resolution for that particular incident. So one of the concepts that I wanted to introduce from version 4 in this presentation is the idea of the service value chain. And this is something that's new to version 4, and it's a critical component here, because what we're trying to get a sense of is how the incident management practice is tied to each of these sort of 6 areas. So the idea of the value chain is that as a service provider, we're responding to some sort of opportunity or demand in the marketplace or in the environment. And the idea is that we're trying to, based on that opportunity or demand, deliver value out the other end. So based on opportunity and demand, we want to turn that into a valuable contribution that we're making to that customer organization or customer environment. We see in the center here then what are the key activities within the value chain, and that's engage. We have obtain or build, design and transition, deliver and support, and then the output is the products and services that we're offering that are creating value. At the top, we have planning. So each of these need to be appropriate planned, and we always have to be looking for improvement opportunities across the value chain. So if we look at where incident management sort of operates within the concept of the value chain, engage is a key area. So there's engagement from an incident management perspective is very important. This is where we're interacting with our support partners. This is where we're interacting with customers, with users. This is where we're interacting with external vendors. We need to make sure that our incident records are logged and updated and current, so that we can share status easily with our extended stakeholders for the incident management practice. We also want to be looking at obtain and build. So if obtain and build is more focused on acquiring new technology, whether that's software, so we're buying new software, we're buying a new application, we're buying new infrastructure, we're developing our own application, that's taking place within the obtain build environment or activities of the value chain. And we should be tracking incidents within those environments as well. And this is an area that I think in the version 3 of ITIL, incident management, is probably not occurring in many organizations. So we're potentially missing an opportunity to capture information and improve those build and development environments the same way we would look to improve our operational environment by tracking and documenting incidents. From a design and transition perspective, now we're looking at test environments, UAT. We're looking at the deployment and the staging environments. Again, we should be tracking incidents in these environments the same way that we do in production. Deliver and support, of course, this is more traditionally where we would see incident management at play. So these are operational services that are being consumed by our customers, our users. And this is where we're focused on ensuring that we've got service levels and targets in place. So again, we're expanding the scope, if you will, of incident management from an ITIL 4 perspective.
Matt, I have a question for you.
Okay.
In these areas of obtain, build, design, and transition, should these incidents all go through the service desk? Obviously, the service desk is a key component in engage, but should all incidents then in on these other areas get routed through the service desk as well?
So I would say yes. So you may have, depending on how you enable your support teams, they may have the ability to log the incidents independent of going through the service desk. But from a good practice perspective, I would say that, yeah, the incidents should be reported through your service desk, your single point of contact. And we want to ensure that we have service levels in place for each of these different environments as well, so that we can respond appropriately and assign it to the appropriate support group to get resolution to those. So I would say yes, unless you've got some sort of self-service portal that you're enabling for members of these teams.
Makes sense.
And of course, we want to ensure that from an improved perspective, that we have a clear understanding of what the opportunity is to make improvements across the incident management practice. So keep in mind that improvement happens everywhere in the service value chain. So we want to make sure that we're improving each of these activities across the value chain in terms of engage, design, transition, deliver, support, and what can we do better from a roles and responsibilities, from a definition perspective, and ensure that things are getting better. So of course, the service desk has some key integrations. There are more than these, but I would say that these are fairly important based on the value chain activities that we're tied to. So certainly a strong relationship to problem management. So problem management is getting a lot of its data in terms of the analysis and identification of potential problems from incident management. Problem management is also feeding workarounds and knowledge back to incident management in terms of an appropriate response. We've got change control, so often change is used in the way that we actually resolve certain incidents. Service desk as a key function to manage the incident management activities. Release management, deployment management, again, from an obtain build, from a deploy transition perspective, these practices become quite important. And then in terms of knowledge management, feeding and capturing data from incident management to, again, better support. What should we be doing? What scripts should we follow? How should we be capturing specific information?
So Matt, when you're talking about incident management, problem management, I know we did a webinar on this months ago, but I wanted to ask a question about major incident management. Now, obviously, common incidents that are recurring over and over again, they can very easily be escalated to problem management, and so they can do their diagnosis. Should a single event, major incident, be automatically transitioned to problem management to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
So quite often in the design of your problem management process, you would consider a major incident automatically becoming a problem. You still need to treat it as a major incident and get resolution. So you're not necessarily doing problem management before you finish the incident activities.
Right.
But there is value in determining what the root cause was and determining what a potential permanent solution would be to that major incident because of the overall impact that it's having to the organization. So I would say that it is common, but it's not something, I mean, there's nothing mandatory, but there is, it does make a lot of good sense to treat major incidents as something that would trigger a problem investigation.
And one other thing I'm going to note here about your slide is that I don't see request fulfillment. Now, we know that gets handled by the service desk, but how many organizations out there are still having trouble separating request from incident?
So I think there's still quite a struggle where defining the difference between request and incident is still top of mind to many organizations. You can use the same tool, the same module of a tool to track both incidents and requests. Essentially what you would do is you would differentiate them based on how you categorize the information. So if you have a multi-tiered categorization model, you could categorize based on the application, what the specific query is, and then at the third level, you might get to whether that's something that's to do with break fix versus more of a request. So you can differentiate that rather than having a separate request model. But from a definition perspective, they're really very different practices and they do different things. So I think there's, just in terms of how the technology has evolved over time, they've often been seen together. But in terms of direct integration, one is really about something that's broken or is about to break versus another one being about something that really doesn't exist. You don't have access to that service. You're looking for information. You have a question. So there's not a direct integration between the two from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't have it here.
Well, that's fair enough. I wanted to try to assume the smart guy label there, so I put you on the spot.
All right.
Very good.
So in terms of improving, we come back to our continual improvement model. And this is version 4's improvement model, as opposed to what we had as the CSI approach in version 3. And it's pretty much the same. We've got an extra activity here in terms of take action, which is good. But essentially what we're trying to do in any sort of improvement or implementation is clearly define what is the overall goal, the overall objective of what we're trying to achieve. Once we've defined that clearly and we've got a good sense of that, then we need to understand where we are currently. Let's do a baseline, understand what our current environment looks like, and then what's the gap, right? Where do we want to be in terms of an incremental improvement, or what do we need to do in terms of achieving the overall goal that we've set? Can we define some specific targets that we want to achieve? define then the overall plan in terms of what's the approach that we're going to take. Is this going to be a full-blown project? Is this going to be something that we're going to do at a smaller scale? We're going to look for quick wins. But we need to identify what the plan is, what the activities are that we're going to undertake. Then we want to go ahead and execute on that plan. And then we want to take a step back once we've finished and evaluate, were we actually successful? And then we want to start this cycle all over again. And that gets us to PinkATLAS. So PinkATLAS is a toolkit that essentially has lots of templates, lots of good practices, good ideas to help get you started. And as I talk about that, I'm going to turn over.
Yes, I have a request for control of the presentation.
Yes, I'm giving it to you.
And if I can get this working right, I don't need to.
You're now in charge, Brian.
Am I? Can you? Well, let's see if you can see a screen here that I pull up. Does that change the view? There's no view changes there.
Not for me yet.
Okay, it's probably. Let's see. Share content. I don't. Uh-oh, this might be an incident. How we doing?
There we go.
There we go. Right on. So yes, PinkATLAS. I just wanted to give everybody a quick view of PinkATLAS on our website, just in case you're interested in learning a little bit more. PinkElephant.com. There's a little PinkATLAS right up there. Just click on that. Training and consulting in a box. I'm kind of glad that changed a little bit, because I think at one point it said a consultant in a box, and I just had this vision of, like, you know, a crate landing at or an organization's doorstep and Troy DeMolin or Jack Popes popping out of it, and that's just kind of creepy. So training and consulting in a box, but really it's an ITSM toolkit. Lot of downloadable content. We're going to take a quick view into some of the incident management documents, and you can see it's all there. And Matt and his team are going to have a fun job in the months to come as the advanced ITIL 4 content comes out, aren't you, Matt?
Absolutely.
Going to be a few updates that are going to be made to this.
Yeah, we already have lots of plans to start making some updates and augmenting the content within PinkATLAS.
Fantastic. Yeah, but we'll keep the version 3 stuff because, as Matt said, it's very relevant as well. So yes, PinkATLAS, there are 3 different options, and I'll go over those real quick. So let's take a look. Now let me see if you see this screen. How's that we're looking?
That looks gray to me.
You can see the PinkATLAS homepage?
No, I just see gray.
You just see gray?
Yeah.
Oh, then that's not good. Uh-oh. We don't like saying an uh-oh.
There we go.
You can see the PinkATLAS homepage.
Now I see it.
Fantastic. So, for anyone that already has an existing PinkATLAS account, this will look very familiar to you. But I'm assuming many of you do not. So this is what you see as your landing page, the home page of PinkATLAS. Very quick tour around here. Up at the top is our Ask the Expert portal. And you can use this as often as you'd like. This comes in all iterations, silver, gold, and platinum. So you say who you are, what do you want to talk about, and hey, there's your message. I want to talk about incident management. Hey, I've got a document I want you to take a look at. Maybe it's a prioritization model. Send it in, and guess who receives it? Smart guy, Matt Bowles. Now, in all likelihood, he's probably going to be able to have this conversation with you or via email or the phone. But in the off chance he's busy or he feels that one of his team is better suited to answer, he will route it to them. So this is a portal that you and your organization can use as often as you'd like. It's great value add. You do get access to the ITIL books in a browsable format. Right now it's a version 3. I think we're still working on how we're going to incorporate the ITIL 4 books, unless, Matt, you know something I do not know.
No, I think that's still being worked out, Brian.
Right. And up here is all the downloadable content you get with PinkATLAS. There are hundreds and hundreds of downloadable artifacts. You can see the type of format it comes in, quick synopsis. So here's ITIL overview, download it. This is all to do with your program, so not process specific. And again, I know this is a lot to take in. So if you do have questions, you'd like to take a more in-depth view of Atlas, we'd be happy to do a one-on-one demo at your convenience. There's a lot of stuff here, and we have sections on using lean concepts, how you manage organizational change in an ITSM program, and governance. How does COBIT come into play? Section on asset management. Now, here's the meat and potatoes. All the processes are in here, and so you can just take a view of them. And we're going to take a look at the incident management process, of course. Table of contents. They all look pretty much the same. At the start, you've got all your charters and kickoff decks up at the front, and then here's your core documentation, which I've conveniently got in already uploaded formats for you. All the charts that you're going to need come in Visio format. Now this is where it gets a little bit different from process to process, all the supplemental material. So in incident management, there's going to be a lot of categorization, escalation models, major incident management, prioritization. So a lot of stuff, even around your service desk as well. What should you be looking at as far as assessing that? A lot of good stuff here. But as I mentioned, we're going to take a quick look into some of the key documents that are available. This is not shared, so let's share it. All right. I'm assuming you can see this. This is our incident management overview. Overview documents are not terribly robust as far as the length. As you'll see, some of these documents get up in 100 pages. Really, we're talking about the incident management process in general. What's the scope? What are the benefits? And then what are the key roles and responsibilities involved? And you can see the way that these documents are formatted. While the entire document can be edited, we've highlighted the areas where we're pretty sure you're going to want to make changes. And let's just skip down to roles and responsibilities. We go over the process owner, process managers, and then analysts and support staff. So sometimes customers love these documents because they don't have to recreate the wheel. It's all done for you. It literally saves hundreds and hundreds of hours of process design time. You just download and tweak. So here in this, which is now called high-level design, if you're familiar with the ITIL books, you're going to recognize the process flow comes out of the book, and then the activity descriptions along the way. And then as we go down here a bit, we're going to see how all the policies that you should take into consideration for incident management, probably more than you would need. But like I said, you can always edit them and keep the original copy somewhere safe. A lot of policies. How does COBIT come into play? And as well as integration with other processes. All right. Now, I'm going to get the detailed design document. And I'm going to wait for it. jaws are about to start dropping. This goes into a lot more depth than the ITIL books do. It takes the high-level process flow and blows it up into a step-by-step format. This is where you get all these flows in Visio, and that's what people really love those. So descriptions, racing matrices for each step of the way. And as you can see, this one's probably close to 100 pages. Matt, is there anything you want to comment on about the level of depth that the detailed design document goes into?
Yeah, so the detailed design document really provides a very specific view of procedure by procedure for each of the high-level activities that ITIL defines as a part of the incident management process. So what we've done is we've interpreted the high-level activities, and we've put in procedures that help to augment. And based on the procedures now and how you're using the tool to support or automate some of these procedures, you can start to build in specific work instructions. So we go as deep as the procedural level, and we provide some description to each of the procedures, but we don't get down to a specific work instruction because that's going to apply context that is really going to be more specific to the technology that you're utilizing to help automate the process.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I had to uncross my eyes here. My eyes start to cross in this document the more I go through it. So, very detailed design, hence the name detailed design. Let's take a look at the management reporting document. And this is all about your metrics, who gets reports from where, how often, what are the KPIs you need to take into consideration, what are the critical success factors. Again, if anybody does want to get some sample documents sent, you just need to send an email to us, and we'll have that information for you shortly. And I'd be happy to send you some sample documents or even give you a one-on-one demo. It usually takes 15 to 30 minutes to kind of go through it for an organization. So there we go. Those are the core documents, and for all ITIL processes, you would have these available. But we're really just focused on the incident management here. I mentioned that the ASSE Expert Portal comes with all iterations of PinkATLAS. So I just want to, and of course all the downloadable content comes in all iterations as well. So I just wanted to kind of highlight what the three options are and then go over a few bells and whistles. What you're seeing up here is pricing in US dollars. For any of our clients or listeners in Canada, go Raptors. There is Canadian pricing available, and that can be provided to you, or it's also on our website as well. So as I mentioned, yes, here's everything standard in all three of them. User licenses, so 1, 2, or 3. Really what that means is how many people can be poking around PinkATLAS at the same time in your organization. It's that simple. Now, there are some training credits that come with each one. Self-paced, we have a fairly robust training portfolio and quite a number of self-paced offerings. So you would get either 5, 10, or 15 courses. And then virtual instructor-led, which are led by Matt's team through WebEx. You would get none in the silver, but you could get 5 or 10 in the gold or platinum options. Now, we are having a promo on PinkATLAS for the month of July, and for both gold and platinum, we are adding 5 self-paced to each and 5 virtual to each. That's quite a significant amount of value when you consider these courses could be anywhere from $1,200 to $2,600. So depending on what you end up taking, it's quite a bit of value. That's one caveat is that exams would have to be purchased separate, but they can be purchased through our CRM team in either format. In addition to training credits, you would get consulting time, again with Matt's team here. And with the silver, unfortunately, big goose egg there. Gold or platinum, you can either consume them in hours, 8 hours or 16 hours, or you can book a full day. And if you've got the need to have our consultant on site, you just need to pay their travel. So there's a lot of different ways you can get creative on using those. We also have an online tool called PinkScan, which is a do-it-yourself assessment tool, and that is available in the Platinum offering. It's actually 12,500 values, so I mean that's quite a bit of add-on value there. If you are bringing this on site to train your teams, you get a preferred rate on the trainer fees, and also if you want to go to our events, which we have a leadership forum in Scottsdale this coming August, and of course our annual ITSM event in Vegas next February. 10% off the full rate fees there, so definitely some value that you can get out of this. So, Matt, can you take control from me, or do I have to give it back to you?
No, I'm going to see.
Okay. Because I think there was one slide left of a couple of real good-looking dudes, and I didn't know if we were going to show that one or not.
I don't know that I want to, but
I think it's us.
There
we go. There's our contact details. Brian Curry, sales dude, Pink Elephant. B.Curry at pinkelephant.com. Matt Bowles, smart guy. M.Bowles at pinkelephant.com.
So thanks very much for attending. There's a couple of questions I'm just going to try to answer quickly. But if there's other questions that I missed, then by all means send us a note, and we'll get back to you. So one of the questions, what is the actual value of the service value chain helps to create to the incident management practice? Essentially, what we're doing with the service value chain is it's going to help a lot in terms of the integration of the different practices. So if you think about creating more of a value stream in terms of taking some lean concepts, then we can start looking at how do we create value streams that leverage incident change problem, and looking at the way that the service value chain is designed, it's going to help us to plan those value streams more effectively. So it's not just about labeling them in different boxes, but as you understand the bigger picture of ITIL 4, it's going to help you in terms of the design and implementation. Another question: how would you distinguish an incident in a build test environment versus a defect that has a dedicated process within SDLC? Ideally, what we're trying to do is capture that defect in the larger frame of our incident management practice. So again, we have a better understanding of all of the types of incidents that are occurring, whether that's happening in development or happening in operations, and what we might need to do to improve our environment to track that. So it's not replacing SDLC, it's tying it closer to our overall incident management practice to give it broader visibility. How can we improve the unqualified incidents? Don't have them. So a lot of organizations still are classifying, have a part of their categorization model as they're labeling incidents as other from a categorization perspective, and really you want to try and eliminate that other option. So that everything can be apportioned to either a service or a specific system or application as much as you can, so that you can minimize that. And if you currently are using other, then I would say that that's a good opportunity for you to really do some analysis on those incidents that are coming in under that categorization, and identify where they ought to have belonged. And many tools today have the ability to categorize as you open the incident and categorize when you close the incident. So often at the time that the incident is opened, you may not have all of the information that you need to properly categorize. But by the time you've closed it, you're much more accurate in terms of how it would be categorized at the close. And it's typically maybe a more senior member within the support teams that's doing the closure categorization. So it's often much more accurate. So that analysis can help you as well in terms of tracking those unqualified incidents.
Matt, I'm wondering if we should just briefly mention Pink Verify, because there's been a lot of talk about tracking and tool sets and whatnot. So if you're an organization that you don't think maybe you have a good enough tool that you're using to work your incident management process, if you go to our website, pinkelephant.com, there's a banner, or it's right near the PinkATLAS thing that I showed you, called Pink Verify, and you can look at all the different vendors who have had Pink Elephant, ensure that their offerings are ITIL compliant, and you can see which processes they've been put through the ringer for. It's up to the vendors to come to us for that, but it is a service we provide, and you can view that freely and take a look at who we've deemed we've given the thumbs up to.
So Charles, I see your question. I think it would be good if we maybe take that offline, just so that I can better understand what's meant by unqualified. So if I could ask you to maybe just make note of my email address and send me a note, and why don't we engage through email, and if we need to, we can have a quick chat. I'm happy to do that. With that, I'd like to bring this session to a wrap. So thanks very much, Brian, and we'll be back in the next few months with something new and exciting to talk about, maybe.
Always a pleasure, Matt. Always a pleasure.
All right, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. We really appreciate your attention and your interest, and look forward to seeing you again in the future.
All the best to everyone. Thank you very much.